hole, which we twinned in on hole number 22. So of our best hit so far of 19 meters at 1.52, which is actually part of 3 pegmatites in that hole, which was 26 meters at 1.53. And I think that's an important thing to note, that it's not just that 19 meters. It is an aggregate of 26 meters, and it's still at over 1.5%. There was a number of plus 2% individual assays in there as well, which is always good in the wide zones and even in the narrow zones for that matter. And the diamond core tail on TGRC9 also came up with some high graders were there as well, as 1.74% over 4.5 meters. So just in a summary of what that means for us going forward. So going off, expanding from the previous discovery holes where we got a few 9 meters there at over 1.5% lithium. You'll see in all of the hits that we've had in our drill holes so far, they're well above 1%. And I think that's important, because what it means is we're still finding a strong system. It's still high grade. There's not a lot of assays below 1% in any of our drill holes so far, which shows that we've got a consistent lithium spodumene pegmatite, and we've got a number of different zones of pegmatites as well. It's not just the one. Why did we drill where we drilled? Well, what we're trying, this is only early days for us in this exploration. We don't have any outcrop, so we're drilling into a blind pegmatite system, and we're finding our way as we drill our holes. So the best place for us to position our holes to actually hit the pegmatite, so that then we can follow up with follow-up drilling, is actually out on the western side of the main anomaly. And that gives us certainty that we're going to hit the a pegmatite at depth. From there, we can then work that up and go forward. And that's what the forward program is going to be about, is actually working our way up dip from our deeper hits that we've got, and also trying to working out more our plunge direction, and where that feeds then into potentially thicker pegmatites at depth and along strike. So all that is ahead of us, and we certainly in our next round of drilling, we'll be concentrating on proving up our pegmatites up dip into shallower positions, rather than what we've seen in a lot of our holes from this program, where we've targeted at depth. So it's not to mean that the pegmatite is only at depth, it's only at 200 meters. It's not. Its depth is just where we've hit it in this program, and we're going to work our way up. And importantly too, on hole number 22, you can see the high grade hits actually start at 173 meters depth, and not at 200. It's there is a gap in between the first hit to the second hit, but that is economic, or we believe it is anyway, in at current spodumene prices. So just zooming out further on our pegmatite intercepts and what they mean for us. So we did test the western anomaly, the far western anomaly, which is a long, narrow anomaly. And we got high grade hits in that, although lower, skinnier than probably we've seen in other parts. But that is also a potential feeder zone as well. We've got to do some more drilling on that. It's only 2 holes put in that so far. It's still promising, but we've got to do more drilling on it to see if how that feeder zone feeds into the main zone, and what that means for pegmatite development going forward. We also can see that there is a link to the Burmeister soil anomaly as well, out to the east. We're going through the approvals process now to get onto that and drilling. The final piece in the puzzle for that will be heritage surveys, which we're looking at locking in for February, and then past that we'll be getting the heritage reports back, and then looking at drilling sometime in March, and our first prospects out there. So we're also, because it is such a large area, we're looking at some soil analysis and various elemental analysis, so we can get better targeting of where to put our initial drilling. And we're also going to be doing some infill soil sampling as well, particularly in the northern part there. So where the soil anomaly there seems to terminate to the north, it actually doesn't. That's just the limit of where we have soil sampled so far. We're getting strong anomalies up there as well, so we're going to extend that to the north and a little bit out to the east too, to our tenement boundary. So that's also an exciting target for us going into 2024. The next phase of drilling too will be a lot more holes as well, possibly up to around another 22 or 23 holes. There will be a lot more diamond drilling involved as well. We do want to get some more core, and we'll probably look at distributing the core drilling around more than just extending off of new holes. We'll look at going in between other holes that we've already drilled, so that we can get some core sample of lithium that we know, pegmatite that we know about, for ongoing metallurgical testing, which will commence sometime in 2024 as well. So just going on to the lithium hits in section. So obviously our best one there is on the right-hand side of the screen, in TGRC22. We've twinned that with a diamond hole as well, 24, which is currently in the lab getting assayed. We're seeing basically we're seeing is almost exactly the same width of pegmatites in the diamond drilling, as well as you can see in that section, and that this hit is only one hole on that section, and it will be followed up dip and basically off towards Jägermeister prospect. It may well cross over into the Jägermeister prospect as well. That's yet to be determined, but we'll attack that in our next drilling program, and we'll go as far as we can into Jägermeister before we need to get our approvals sorted out, and then we'll carry on from there after in March and April when we do our Jägermeister drilling. We're also seeing a continuation of the pegmatite off to the west too, still on that shallow dip. So what we're also seeing is that there is a plunge component to the pegmatites as well. At this stage, we're thinking that it's off to the north and at a slightly steeper dip than the dip to the west of the pegmatites. So that is trending towards a thickening of the pegmatite. So we are narrowing that down as that's our source for our pegmatite development, and we're carrying higher grades as we've seen in TGRC22 and thicker pegmatites. So that's what we want going forward, and that's what we're going to be targeting in our next phase of drilling. So as I was saying, on our next steps, our drilling operations will recommence in January of 2024. We do have assays samples in the lab at the moment too for assay. They'll come out in early January as well for the holes which we have assays pending, and we're going to progress with the approvals process for our drilling on Jägermeister. In the meantime, we'll get soil sample results back as well from the soil sampling program, which we hope to commence before the end of this year, and then into January as well. And we'll have our heritage surveys locked away for February March as well. And we do need to do some flora surveys. They'll also commence in January, so we can get ahead of those and get our approvals on track. I had a question about whether, and you can see there with our tenement boundary, which off to the east there, which is on Chargers ground, and then the Metcalfe lithium deposit, which is further to the northeast. I've had a question about whether whether our pegmatites are more in line with Metcalfe than it is for, say, something like Earl Grey. I can say at the moment, no, because our pegmatites are mineralized the whole way through. We haven't seen blank pegmatites, which is Metcalfe is having some of those as well, where you're getting unmineralized pegmatites. So we're seeing pegmatites mineralized the whole way through, and pretty much everyone that we've drilled so far has got spodumene mineralization in it that we can see. So that's the difference with ours, and also we're sort of on a different dip and plunges to Metcalfe as well. Metcalfe is on the other side of the greenstone belt, and also in a raft surrounded by granite. We have a large expanse of basalt on our side, which remains unexplored at this stage. I think I've covered most of the questions that we had. We've got ongoing drilling programs going into 2024, and both in RC and diamond drilling. It's still an exciting project for the company. It's a great project for the company. Great discovery. We are still in the early days. I think it's unfair to compare us against more advanced projects. We do only have 22 RC holes in the ground at this point, and 2 diamond drill holes. So we're a long way off, a couple of hundred holes that others have in their projects. But we're planning to get there. We've got ongoing drilling programs. We're not going to slow down and move on to something else. This is our main project now, and we are definitely moving ahead with defining where our systems are getting bigger, and we're going to target those going forward. Another question: do we believe that we will have a resource on this? Well, yes, I believe that we will have a resource on this eventually. We won't. That may be quite a few months away, because we do have a lot of drilling to do. But as I said, we've only got 22 RC holes in it so far. So, but in terms of actually establishing a resource, there's enough mineralization there, we believe, to go on with that. So we'll be moving ahead with that sometime in 2024. As for mining wise, we're still a long way off from that. In terms of economics for these lithium pegmatites, look, it's all about the grade and the thickness. At the end of the day, if you've got enough grade and enough thickness, the amount of overburden over it is quite a small consideration compared to the actual value in ground of these high grade pegmatites. So definitely better off having plus 1.5% pegmatites than you are having around the 0.8%. You've got a much better chance of producing a high grade concentrate of spodumene than you have with lower grades, and because it is more loaded with spodumene, you've got less processing costs too, because you're removing less waste out of your pegmatites feed. So we believe that our fertile pegmatites are fairly unique in their concentration of spodumene. And that's something we'll be working on going forward as we look closer at our metallurgical capability and results for this project as well. But as I said, that's probably a while off as well into 2024 of those metallurgical results. I guess we'll always good to finish off with the visuals from the discovery. Look, we've also made a conscious decision not to include the visuals going forward, because I mean they're good to see the first time round, but going forward they do present I suppose a challenge when you are reporting them on the ASX. You do need to have a lot of disclaimers along with them, because visuals are not a indicator of grade, as the ASX always says. However, they do aid us in seeing our spodumene in our samples, and we do that on a regular basis. Just because we're not reporting them in our announcements doesn't mean that the spodumene isn't there. We're seeing consistent spodumene throughout, so we'd have to put up a lot of pictures of all of our holes, because we're not seeing anything that's different to basically what you're seeing on screen there now.
Thanks, David. There has been a few questions that have come through during today's presentation, and one from Curtis Abbott, and I think you might have just clarified that. Is there anything you can say about the visual observations from hole 28?
Yeah, so hole 28, we've seen some pegmatites with intercepts, which because that hole terminated before it reached 300 meters, it potentially did not hit the extension of the thickening of the main pegmatite zone. So that's something that we'll be attacking as we go into phase 3 with a diamond tail on it. The reason why we stop drilling before we get to 300 is normally because we get some water ingress into the hole, and we don't want to drill wet samples because that can bias your sampling. So then we change over to diamond drilling. So that'll be a first up, a good re-entry point for us going early into 2024 drilling. But it's also encouraging to see that we do have a further round of pegmatite intercepts, which we haven't seen before in the drilling that was further to the south. So that also leaves open, I suppose, the area to the north. We may be seeing some a repetition, and that's something that we need to we need to nut down as well. There's potentially another feeder zone, in that north, but we've only got 3 holes there so far. We need to drill more. It's early days, as I said.
Yeah. Another one that's just come through. Clearly the market wants to see some shallow pegmatites. Will you be doing more shallow holes during phase 3?
Yeah, so as I alluded to, we're going to follow up dip. So our round of drilling this time around has been targeting on the deeper side of the main zone, where we're short of hitting pegmatite. We're now going to follow that up in phase 3, going up dip towards the Jägermeister anomaly. So you'll be seeing shallower hits as we go forward into the phase 3 drilling and phase 4 drilling in 2024, early 2024.
And just one on a positive note, current 28 market cap is way undervalued compared to our peers doing rock chip sampling. It's a great buying opportunity here on what has been presented and clarified in today's presentation. Do you agree?
Yes, I agree with that. There are a lot of others that haven't even got any drill holes in that are a higher market cap than us. I think, to be fair, we've been unfairly treated in the last few days, and it's this is a significant deposit. It's high grade, and it is a fairly unique mineralogy when it comes to spodumene. So I believe we've got a significant discovery here, and we're going to move forward with proving it up.
Great. And any other questions that have come through, guys, if we've missed you, just email David, or we'll get back to you following this presentation. that's a wrap. Thanks,
Okay,
everyone.
thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.